Coming up tonight, I have Neil Urry from Soul Sanctuary Safaris with me. He's going to share a little bit about what it takes to become a safari field guide. Right after Neil, we have Ferris the ferret in the chat box. Now, Ferris was found wandering aimlessly around country Victoria and he struggles with a little bit of anxiety. We're going to hear all about that. Don't go anywhere, take a seat, get ready. We'll be right back in just a moment. Welcome to the Animals Television Show, everyone. It is that time of week again where we get to chat with some great guests. I'm Romy Bewley, your show host, and first up we have Neil Urry with us. Neil is the founder of Soul Sanctuary Safaris. He's a safari field guide, a retreat organiser and facilitator, and a yoga teacher. He's going to be talking to us tonight about what it takes to become a safari field guide. We hear about bird calls and what a track can tell you, amongst other things. He's going to talk to us about his retreats as well. And right after Neil, we have Ferris the ferret in the chat box. First up though, let me introduce you to Neil Urry. Welcome Neil, and thank you for joining me tonight on the Animals Television Show. I want to start, we never have enough hours for a chat, do we? There's so much to cover, but I just want to start perhaps by, perhaps you can tell us a little about yourself and what drew you to the African savannas.
Story goes back. In the early 90s, I took a journey with my brother and my two best friends to South Africa. And we did a 4-day safari, starting from the north and driving to the south. And it blew me away. I'd never seen such a vast array of wildlife in such pristine natural habitat. And then there was a real long period of time before going back again. I'd started yoga teaching and I'd been running some retreats to India and Japan. And I went on a diving trip to Mozambique. And whilst I was in Mozambique, stopped off at the Kruger National Park again, had 4 days. And the guy who was owning the lodge, he was fairly new to lodge owning. And I said, look, this is the kind of place that I would love to run a retreat at. And he said, well, let's do it. So the following year, we ran our first ever safari yoga retreat. And from then on, it kind of rekindled my passion for African safaris and the savannah and all the amazing wildlife.
Yeah. And so a few years ago, you went off and did a safari field guide course, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about, especially for those budding safari guides out there that want to do something like this, can you tell us a little bit about the process of that and anything interesting that you've experienced as part of learning these skills?
Sure. Look, if anybody has any passion or interest for animals, I would definitely. It's one of the top 3 experiences I've ever had in my life. It's a 56-day course. We spent it in two game reserves, 1 month in one, 1 month in the other. It's a 17 module course, and people don't need to get bogged down with the fact that they're doing a course. If they don't want to do the exam and just want to go there for an experience, it is truly an awesome, awe-inspiring experience. So about 17 different modules: ecology, mammal behavior, birds, amphibians, bird calls, geology, what else? Tracking birds, nests, trees, grasses, soil. So the whole, it's not just going to look at animals. You're looking about the whole ecosystem and how the entire net of it all works. It's pretty full on. You are up very early and tend to be going to bed fairly late at night. But just if you can imagine this, you're in an unfenced camp in a 2-man or woman dome tent, and there'd be some mornings that I would wake up and there would be noises outside my tent, and I would unzip it a little bit and just peer out, and there would be elephants picking leaves from above my dome tent. And it's like, how often in your life does that happen? One morning I woke up and I heard a female leopard territory marking for about 2 hours around the camp, and then when I went for a little bit of a walk, there were about 100 meters from my tent, her fresh tracks from that morning. Some nights we'd have rhino in the camp. You'd hear the rhino, and I never realized that rhino have some like a 14 sound vocabulary that they talk to each other. So it's just really intense experience in the camp. You're usually with 20 people from around the world. So as a human interaction experience, it's very interesting learning about yourself and how you interact with other people, bringing their stuff to the retreat. And the guides are incredibly knowledgeable. And I thought I knew a lot. I've watched a lot of National Geographic and Animal Planet, and I thought I knew a lot. But until I'd done this course, I realized that I knew nothing. It was, as I said, it was one of the most profound, life-changing experience that I've ever had. To be that close to animals on foot and in a vehicle. For the first week, it's almost as if you were a guest. And then from week 1 onwards, you became the guide. You would drive the vehicle and talk to your peers about the experience. You'd learn the art of storytelling around what was happening with those animals, how they would interact, and how often you would sit on a sighting watching one animal, and all of a sudden there'll be a development, and you'd look in a tree and there'd be this amazing eagle that you didn't see before, and then the eagle would fly off and you'd look off into the distance and there'd be a herd of elephants, and all these things would just kind of unfold. And it was just such a, as I said, a storytelling, a beautiful unfolding and storytelling of how all these animals have their own little niches within the savannah, but how they all work together, how it all just gels nicely together.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. And so I assume that a part of that, you have to learn how to drive the vehicle, because I don't imagine it's like driving through the CBD of Sydney, say.
It's certainly not. It's certainly difficult to do. And I did manage to ditch the vehicle at one stage. It was getting near twilight, and there was a little bridge that we were going over, and my front wheels went over, but the back right-hand side wheel didn't quite make it. So I ditched the vehicle at night time when all the predatory animals were starting to come out. So everybody piled out the vehicle, and we had to jack the vehicle up, throw soil underneath, throw rocks underneath, and find a way out. So
and you stood at the back, right? You let everyone else go to the front.
I felt so bad and so guilty that I was like feverishly working, but I told them that I did it deliberately. I said that no other one of the groups in the 4 groups would now have the knowledge that we have, because they wouldn't have had the experience we had, and I think I got away with it.
Yeah. Oh, look, I'm with you.
You know, it was amazingly done. You know, so in the morning you had to wake the group up. You would take on the role as host. You would make breakfast. Well, you would make breakfast. You deliver the breakfast for people, and then you'd stand up and you say, "Hi, I'm Neil. I'm going to be your guide for the day. This morning's drive, you will need to bring the following things," and it had to be all done. You'd be dressed out in your khaki outfit, and it was all done. They wanted you to take on the role of being a guide from the get-go, and presenting in front of people. I'm quite confident presenting in front of people, but there were a lot of kids that were fresh out of school, 17, 18, 19-year-olds that were on like a gap year.
Yeah, right.
And it was a real struggle for them. So it was a good experience for the group to actually galvanize together and help their fellow safari guides out. And also then when you're on your drives, if you're saying something that is not quite right or true, there'd always be someone in the back of the vehicle that was kind of nodding their head or shaking their head, going, don't even go there anymore. That's enough. And then you'd look at them and go, okay. No, we'll change that. Let's carry on with our drive now. So you could quite easily brush over sometimes. We were talking off air about sometimes you say things and you think, yeah, that's all perfect, and then you get back to the camp, it's like, what were you talking about? That was complete nonsense. You're making all of that up. It's like, yeah, I was a bit nervous. I was just making it all up.
Yeah, as long as you're confident, you can carry it off.
Yeah.
So how do you go about you're obviously learning about how many different birds and trees and leaves and things like that. So if you got any tips or experiences with trying to remember all these bird calls and know that is whatever bird or animal out there?
Yeah, well, they would give you things like there's one bird. I'm going to have to get this right now. It's a dove.
Yeah, don't make it up.
No, it's a dove, and it's the call sounds like work harder until lunchtime, and then after lunchtime the call is drink lager. So they give you things like, there's another one that's, I think, the call they give you to remember is coffee, tea, or me, coffee, tea, or me, coffee, tea, or me. The red-eyed dove, I am the red-eyed dove. I am the red-eyed dove. So that sometimes the calls would actually give you clues to what the name of the bird was. But there are like 360 different birds that come and frequent seasonally, but also some that are there all the time that frequent the Kruger National Park. So fortunately, we only needed to know 90 by name and identification. But with name and identification, you also needed to know 90 bird calls. So that when you had your little test, if they did pick out the birds that you knew, you were lucky. And if you didn't pick out the birds you know, then you would hopefully someone else would have that. No, I think hopefully there would be someone that could point you in the right direction. But,
yeah, they could just frogs, sneak over.
Frogs and toads. Like we had to learn frogs and toad calls.
Wow. Gosh,
yeah,
what an experience though. And so I guess you miss it, not being able to get back there at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah,
I read this. I'm sure you've either heard it or read it yourself. Lawrence Anthony, for everybody out there looking for a good book to read, he's written 3 of them. He passed away, unfortunately, but he wrote a book called The Last Rhinos, and there was a part in there, and I just wanted to ask you about this because it just blew me away. There was a part in there where they had to bring in there was a bull elephant that was being a little bit young and arrogant and whatnot, and he wanted to bring a patriarch in there to try and, teach the younger elephants how it all worked. So they brought this elephant in, and of course, it's a long journey wherever he came from, and he was heavily sedated and whatnot. There was a few issues when he got to this conservation park, and he got out and all that sort of stuff, and they ended up bringing in one of the tracking elders. I'm not sure what you call them, but let's call him a tracking elder, from where this elephant came from. And this fellow had lived with this elephant, knew him very well, and also very telepathic, this man was. So they brought him out to try and help this situation. And one of the things that I read in this book was that this man could tell from the depression of the elephant's foot in the ground whether this elephant was just stopping to listen or whether he had, there's some scent on the wind just by the depression in the ground. And I mean, it just sounds very, I can't quite think of the word to use, but just very intricate, to figure out from a track. And I guess these guys are growing up doing this work. And, what's your experience has been with the actual tracking? Like, what do you see from an animal or a creature or an insect or whatever's
Sure, yeah.
scuttling across the ground?
Yeah, I mean, the depth of the indentation, the pub marker that it makes, definitely will tell you information. If it's injured, it might be dragging a foot, which if it's a prey animal, that's very useful for the predators. You've got a buffalo, and they're watching a buffalo's drag mark of a foot. That those predators are going to go, hang on a minute, this is a potentially an easy meal for us. This buffalo is not going to be able to run away. So as much as the humans are using these tracking information, then so too are the animals as well. Some animals will through their footmarks will leave a pheromone down. So rhinos, they have it's called a midden. A lot of the animals are called middens. They're like they're toilets. And the toilet, because the rhinos don't have the use of internet, they can't leave email messages. So they leave defecation messages. So a rhino that has a territory will have a midden. Another rhino may walk into his territory and say, "Look, I mean you no harm," and he might defecate on the outside or urinate on the outside.
Right.
And the rhino who owns that territory goes, "That's cool. He's just passing through." Another rhino might come in and say, "I'm making a play for your territory," might defecate in the middle and then scrape his feet through to say, I'm here to take over your space. A female might come in, defecate or urinate, and she might have chemical markers that it's to tell that she's in season and ready for mating. So there's so much information, subtle information that's going on through defecation and urination. The rhino that holds that territory, he will also defecate in his own midden, walk in the midden, and then he'll walk around the outside of his territory to leave the defecation marks that are in the ridges in its foot on its territory. So the other animals that are coming in, they don't need to find the midden. They can, this rhino has been here. The male rhino who owns this territory has been here. I need to be wary of that. These big animals don't want to be fighting. They're too big to be fighting. If they're fighting all the time, they're potentially doing themselves some damage. So they need to communicate with each other subtly to say, "Look, this is what's going on. You're in my territory. I'm here. Stay out, or let me know in some fashion or manner that you are here, just passing through. If you just want some water, you just want to browse or graze a little." So yeah, the subtlety of the communication. Tracks, definitely, lots of information from them.
That's just
so impala have a gland on their ankles, so that when they run off, that gland will actually secrete a smell that the other impalas will be able to pick up on, so they know where to congregate or follow that to find the rest of the impala.
Yeah, right. So fascinating.
Elephants know how to self-medicate. If they're not very well, they'll know what trees to go and eat, or what leaves to go and eat, what grasses to eat. Some of them will eat, if they've got a mineral deficiency, some of them will eat earth. They eat dirt. The giraffe, if they're lacking calcium, will chew on bones. So they know what's what.
Yeah.
You see the hyenas when they defecate, it's very white. Very chalky, and that's because they eat everything, bone included. The tortoises will then go and eat the hyena defecation, because that's where they're going to get their calcium input from the crushed up bones that have been passed through the hyena. Now are edible for the tortoises. So it's a system that nothing goes to waste. Everything is all recycled back into the system, because someone somewhere along the line is going to utilize it.
Yeah. Isn't that incredible? I love that. Tell us a little bit about the retreats, Neil. Like, how do they work, and what's the safari part of the retreat?
So it's a 10-day retreat, and although it's a yoga safari retreat, it's very heavy on the safari side. We have usually 4 full-day game drives, which are a 6 a.m. start in the Kruger National Park till 6 p.m. usually, sun up to sundown. And in between those days, we'll have 2 sunset safaris. We'll have 2 morning walks on foot in the Kruger. And then around all those bits and pieces, we'll be doing some yoga, some meditation, some mindfulness work, and just general reconnection to self. There's a real heavy theme for me on that self connection, but also a connection to this planet that we live on. And I think as human beings, we become so disconnected, and we put ourselves outside and above the animal kingdom for a lot of the time. So it's really nice for us to get back into a state of nature, our own state of nature, and a state of nature with the animals there, and realize that we are more intimately connected than we actually think that we are. We start the week with a beautiful meditation, which is an earth connection meditation. And at the end of the connection, and I think it kind of freaks a few people out when we do this because I don't tell them, I ask them actually to connect into the animals. We sit and I ask them just to see what animals' faces come to them. I ask them to introduce themselves to the animals and tell them that we're here because we want to share a beautiful experience, that we mean them no harm, that we want to understand better about them and what happens in their lives. And the safari guide that we take, he always says to me each year, how do you do this? He said, it's almost like the animals are waiting for your yoga retreat group to come into the park. And I kind of, oh, there they are. There's the yoga retreat people. We were just hearing about them. And I think it really does work, that vibrational connection, that sending of a message of our intent, incredibly powerful, and I think it reminds the people that come on the retreat of just how incredibly connected we are to the whole of nature and not just the human species.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important too that we honour the traditional owners of the land and the animals and, you know, everything that's on it. And we do get a little bit self-centered when we live in our cities and we just go about our business, don't we? So I love that. That sounds fantastic.
I think another great thing is that people often come back from those retreats and they start to become more actively seeking nature in their own spaces. So I know when I come back, I can't leave a bush or a telegraph pole unlooked at because there might be a bird or a snake or a lizard or something there, and it really heightens your passion to want to connect more, to want to see more, want to experience more and share those experiences on multiple layers.
Just before we finish off, because like I said, I could talk to you for ages because there's just so much to hear. Is there any, do you have any stories that you want to share? Anything interesting that you just like, oh, I really want to get this into the show tonight?
There was one experience in particular that was on my course that we'd just finished breakfast. And there were 4 of us, and this big male elephant walked into the camp, and he stood. He was probably about 5 or 6 meters away from us, and he saw us, and he walked towards us, and he got so close that I could actually smell the grass on his breath.
Oh.
And I cried. That wasn't a cry of fear. I just felt such an overwhelming sense of love from this animal.
Yeah.
Like that, I didn't feel in any way threatened or uneasy by him walking towards us. I was just overwhelmed by this incredible animal with such immense power, such incredible silence. When they walk, you don't know they're there. They're just so quiet. To walk that close to us, to stand in front of us, and I felt acknowledged, and I felt trusted by this animal. And then he just kind of padded off and walked off, and it was just one of the most beautiful experiences and interactions that I've ever had, to be on foot that close to a wild elephant who, you know, it's tons worth of weight, could do some serious damage. But he just walked over to us. He had a look at us. His trunk come up and had a bit of a smell and a bit of a sniff, and then wandered off. No ear flapping, no head shaking, no aggressive behavior. I just felt this overwhelming sense of love. That's probably the most amazing experience of a few amazing experiences. I've been very fortunate.
We wait for that book, Neil.
for sure. It might happen one day. I think the other great thing for me is running the safari retreats is not just watching the animals. Having done this now over the last nearly 10 years now, is watching the students and the participants that come along and are having their first interactions. The complete look of awe, the first couple of days of, oh my God, there's this massive animal that's coming to, and then after a few days, how they relax and they connect. They're probably not even aware of their connection, but they become so incredibly connected to these animals in a short period of time that it's really beautiful to watch. As I said, not just the animal experience, but the human interaction with the animals, and how you notice that sense of connection, that sense of awe, and a deeper want to understand and be part of this whole, not just a separateness of our human state.
Yeah. And, it makes me think back in not our day, but our parents' day in Australia anyway, they'd have to go off and do national service. And I think it would be such a great thing for, for people to go off and go on safari and experience that. I can't imagine how profound it would be to be surrounded by that energy. Of the land, of the animals, of the people that live there and grow up there as well, and it would be such a great thing for all of us to go and
it's very humbling.
Like
it's very humbling.
Yeah.
That, as I said, we pedestal ourselves and think that we're doing such an amazing job as human beings, and then you go and put yourself into nature, and you realize you're not an insignificance, but you realize that you are just a necessary cog that is making all of this work, as are all those animals necessary cogs that make all of this work. And I think the other beautiful thing about going into nature is you see so many reflections of our human interaction through the animals, the matriarchal systems of elephants and the matriarchal systems of hyenas, the dominant male lions that keep a territory safe so that the matriarchal system of the pride can have somewhere to bring up offspring. The oligarchy system of the baboons, and how they have almost like a mafia system that keeps everything running. And I suppose that's like almost like a corporate environment within baboon system. How you have the head honchos and everybody working for them. You see so much of this stuff is reflected in human nature, but you're seeing it on an animal level, and again, it reminds you that you are so much more connected to this than you ever thought you were. And I hope that people realize that at some stage, rewilding themselves, it's a real buzz thing at the moment, rewilding themselves, going back into nature, reconnecting to nature is one of the greatest sources of reconnecting to self.
Yes.
It really is.
Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic. Well, thank you, Neil, so much for
My pleasure.
Sharing your experiences and your stories tonight and being a guest on our show. If anyone out there is wanting to get in touch with Neil, all of his links have been on the show throughout, and they will be on the Facebook pages, the websites, and the YouTube channels. So you can get in touch with Neil. Neil, it's been great. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't go anywhere, everybody. We're going to be right back to see who's in tonight's chat box. Learn how to talk to your animals. You ask them a question and you receive an answer to understand their why their anxiety, why the strange behaviour, why the performance problems. When you understand your animals, you can give them what they need. Sign up now for the show special. Receive 10% off the online beginner level animal communication course. The Animals Chat Box is the segment where I get to have a chat with some of our viewers' animals. Now, it's not a verbal conversation like I'd ordinarily have with someone. It's a conversation using the language of animals where we transfer images, words and feelings from one to the other. I can smell on behalf of an animal, I can taste what they taste, hear what they hear, I can feel in their body what they feel. And you can gather a lot of information communicating this way, from behavioural issues to emotional and mental health issues. I can taste their food and I can feel in their body where they're unwell or where they're injured. This is often referred to as animal communication. Right now, we have some animals waiting for us in the chat box. Let's go see who they are and what they've got to say to us today. I am very excited to have Ferris and Ferris's mum Kelly here with me today in the chat box. Good morning, Ferris. Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning, Romy. Here we are.
Oh, look at him. Doesn't everybody just must have a ferret? Kelly, what do you know about ferrets? I love them, but I don't know much about them.
Oh, well, I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I do know they're very busy little creatures. They are Houdinis. They can get into and out of things amazingly well. And he's a carnivore, so he has to eat meats as opposed to like a guinea pig that loves their veggies. Sleeps a lot during the day, but when he plays hard. When he wakes up and he plays hard. So,
did I read that ferrets sleep around 18 hours a day? I know cats can do that, but is that the same? Like ferrets are full strap or asleep?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so he'll sleep most of the day, and when he comes out to play, he's full on, but he sleeps most of the day. So that would be about right. Those 18 hours plus.
Yeah. And how did you end up with Ferris?
He was adopted. He was a little rescue ferret that was roaming the streets of Bairnsdale in East Gippsland. And a good friend of mine, Lorna, a wildlife rescuer, she said, "Can you care for him till we can find his owner?" And his owner never came forward, and so he ended up staying with me. And it was good timing because I just lost my other two ferrets from old age, so he took over.
Oh, and what's old age in a ferret? Because they don't really live too long, do they?
Oh, well, my guys have gotten to around the 9-year mark, but I have heard of possibly up to 12, but don't know if that's true, like exactly true, but yeah, 9's pretty good for a ferret, yeah.
Yes. And you're not really sure how old Ferris is? How long have you had him?
I've had him over a year.
Right.
Over a year, yeah.
He's so cute. So are the white ones albinos, or is that just his colourings? Right.
Correct. He has little red eyes. I wouldn't say he's got great eyesight, but he's got incredibly amazing smell, very cute, smell, and he's got good hearing. He responds to a whistle. He loves me whistling him up for some lactose-free cappuccinos in the morning.
As you do in Victoria.
And he likes to get in my hair and, I don't know, make a nest or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, well, let's have a little chat to Ferris and see what he's got to say to us today. And I know you didn't have so much question other than just checking in on him and just seeing if he's happy and if he's healthy. So let me just have a little chat to Ferris and see where he's at. He feels quite young and he feels quite needy and unsure, actually. There's still an unsurety as to where he is. And even though you've had him for a year, which sounds like quite a long time, someone did have him. He was owned by people, and there's where are they? What's happened to them? There's a sense of abandonment almost, because he had quite, from what he's saying here, he had quite a good relationship with these people. There was a lady in particular that he's showing me here that he had a very good relationship, very close relationship. And feels quite confused. I want to say let down, but actually I feel really confused. So I just feel like I'm looking around. Where is she? Where did she go? What's happened? Why am I here? And one of the things that we can do with our animals is to talk to them. What I would do with Ferris is let him know that he's in his forever home. If he is with you, if you're not, are you keeping him or is he up for adoption?
No,
Yeah.
he's here for the long haul, this little
Oh,
fella.
yay. Yeah,
He's
because
not
he's in a
going
good
anywhere.
spot. He's in a good spot. So just let him know that he's in his forever home and that
Yes.
you love him, and send him that feeling of love and stability and foreverness, however
Yes.
you send that across. It doesn't matter. It's the intention. So kind of impress that over to him, and that he's safe and secure with you, and you're going to look after him. He's
Yes.
actually
Okay.
listening. I can hear he's kind of perked up. I can hear him, see him, sorry, just kind of taking this conversation in.
He actually did just perk when you said that. He did. He stopped and looked up.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Good one, Ferris. Yeah, you're in a good spot. And the food, he's showing me loves his food. Actually, the food that you're feeding him is better than where he came from.
Okay.
And he feels very nourished and
Yes.
really healthy.
Yeah, he was skin and bone when he was found. He was very emaciated, and I'd say that that's just from having to be on the streets for so long and fend on his own. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No, well, he's certainly in a much better place now from a nutritional point of view. He's getting
Yes.
what ferrets need to eat.
Yes.
And his smell, like you spoke about his smell before, his sense of smell is so sharp that I almost feel electricity in my own nose. So when I sense on behalf of an animal, I kind of smell on their behalf, or I hear through their ears, or I see through their eyes. His hearing and his smell are just crystal clear. So there's nothing wrong there. And
Yep.
he's a hungry little fellow too. I think if you put food out for him all day long, he would be in a food coma probably for his 18 hours, but he would be eating, food.
He does love his food. Yeah.
Is he allowed outside?
He is. He does find it. He does get a little bit nervous, though. I find there's times where I'll just leave the door open and I supervise him so he can walk outside, and he doesn't always want to. And I've taught him to have a harness on, and I probably don't do enough with him, to be honest, Romy, going out and getting his confidence up. But he tends to just want to get back inside where he's safe.
Yeah, I was going to say, I see him sort of standing in a doorway looking out, feeling very nervous and anxious.
Yes. Yeah.
And that, to me, that feels like the time that he was, whatever happened to him prior to coming to you. And this aimless wandering around, there's a lot of fear around being out in the open by himself because there's no protection for him.
Yes.
And even because he does sleep a lot, he wasn't able to be fully rested during that time because he was always on alert. Like his hearing was just on all of the time in case, he was preyed upon by someone or something out there. So there is a big fear of being outside. He doesn't really need to go out there too much. If he did go out there, he'd just kind of venture out a little bit, I see, and come straight back in. So I don't feel like you need to do too much more, to be honest. I feel like that's fine if he just wants to have a look outside and just smell the air and all that sort of thing. He's pretty comfortable where he is, scuttling around amongst his business.
Yes. He has a large surface area that he runs around. He's got his wardrobe size cage that he sleeps in at night with his heat pads, and then during the day he has access to the large washroom in the cattery and the office.
I feel that there is a bit of anxiety around him. So he doesn't want to be not with you because he's not sure of his surroundings.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to add to that. I totally agree. And he's got this fascination. I've had 3 other ferrets before him, and they're all quite busy, but he's got this thing about he has to be on my head or around my face. It's just a comfort thing or something. He's just fascinated with being just here, or he's just running around everything at the moment. But when he comes up, he just wants to be here. And
yeah, let's see what that's all about. Let's see if he's got anything. Yeah. This also feels a little bit like an anxiety. He's just got to be, he's got to know where he is. He's got to know where you are, because you are his mum now and you are his safety blanket. And he's got to know where you are at any given moment. And he's got to, it's like he's got to touch and feel, because he can't see very well. If I have a look through his eyes, I can see about that far in front of me. Like his vision is very shady, but not because there's anything wrong with him, just because that's what they are. So he can't. So there's a lot of touching, using that sense to make sure that you're here and that he's with you. I'm getting shown flower essences, actually, Kelly. Have you used any of that sort of stuff in your business?
Yeah, dabbled with it, mostly just a little bit for myself from time to time with the bark flowers. But that is something I want to explore more. I've got to get into that. Yeah, I'm interested.
I'm just getting shown that to help with this anxiety and this feeling of insecurity. Okay, there's two things. There's one called coming home, and there's another one for anxiety and fear. Anxiety and fear for, you know, dogs that are scared of thunder and loud noises and ambulances and things like that, and cats the same. You know, those ones are really great for all animals, just to press the pause for a moment. So energy healing as well would be really good for Ferris.
Yes.
Just to, because his energy is quite, it's very prickly. It's like electricity. What's in here? What's in here? I like this stuff. He loves the smell of your shampoo. What are you using?
Yeah, the hair was brushed before the start.
Oh, yeah, he does like it up there. But there's a smell. Like it's quite a florally. I don't know what you have in your hair, but there's a florally kind of smell that he's quite partial to.
The Sukin range. He must like Sukin, natural, paraben-free, etc.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a rat bag.
He's a cute rat bag.
It just cracks me up. I just love them. They're just such happy, fun, vibrant little creatures.
Yeah. What inspired you to get ferrets over the time?
Oh, I've always wanted a ferret ever since I was a little girl, and my mum was a bit scared of them, so we got rabbits. We adopted 6 bunnies that needed rescuing when I was about 11, something like that. And so the whole ferret thing never happened until probably about 5-6 years ago, when my brother rescued a 9-year-old ferret called Cricket. And the owners didn't want her anymore, sadly. So they drove down from Druin to Traralgon to meet us. And secretly I was thinking, I hope Tom, my brother, can't keep Cricket. And he couldn't keep her because of where his work was. It was too cold for her, because ferrets feel the cold.
Yeah.
And so I got Cricket, and that was my journey. And then I started off with another 2, and then on to ferrets.
Are they high maintenance? Is it hard to, because they're quite active and they need probably time to run around and do their thing?
I think you've got to put the time into them when they're little bubbers, you know, because we can be a bit fearful of them biting us.
Yes.
And so I must admit, when I first met him, I had gardening gloves on because I didn't know what his temperament was like. And I saw him pull out of the fridge a 420-gram tin of tuna with his little teeth. And I looked at the size of those incisors and went, the gardening gloves are going to get worn for a little bit longer. But yes, I think you got to put the time into them when they're babies and really handle them lots, so that you're confident with them and they entrust you. And I think once you establish all that, I think everything just flows. They're not like a high maintenance animal as you get older. I think you just got to watch where you put them though too. They can escape. You've got to be really careful where you put them.
What Ferris is showing me too is big things intimidate him, but he's just wanting you to know that if he drops and runs, it's most likely because there's something big around that's scaring him. Yes. So if you've got other animals around that stand tall, and also not just their physical height size, but also their energy. You know, if you have animals that have a big energy, you know, that can make him feel quite insecure and unsafe. And so, and then I want to come back to flower essences again, because some of those types of things can, if he starts to get a little bit panicky, that you can just put a drop or two and just let him feel a little bit calmer within his own body again.
Okay, is that the Australian bush flower range, Rom?
I'm getting told that the bark flower remedies for ferrets are a good match. So if you've got some there, if not, you know, there's a lot of people around that you can order them from and just get them delivered, or you can, if you've got someone local, they can make something quite prescriptive for him. But the coming home one is to kind of not just to help him feel at home within his physical space, it's also to make him feel at home within himself.
Okay.
That sense of being grounded and comfortable in your own skin kind of thing. But he also wants to tell you that he's very grateful for saving him, because he didn't really have much longer to go, I don't think. He was.
Yeah, I don't. He's starting to show little signs of a bit of sleepiness now. Just every now and then he just supercharges again.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot something.
Yeah, that's it. Hang on, I'm a ferret. I've got to go crazy again.
Yeah.
Getting back to, you're so right about large objects and things. He was very funny when I first got him, and his proprioception skills were really bad. He didn't know how to climb things, and he just had really bad proprioception and cognitive skills. He used to sort of crash into things, and he couldn't climb, and he couldn't judge, and he'd just fall off things. So he's just developed so much in his little skills. And the only reason I really knew that was just comparing him to my previous 3 ferrets that could, from babies, they were allowed to climb on everything. And I really feel like he didn't have a huge space where he had come from to learn all these skills of climbing and getting up on high things. And he used to get a bit nervous when somebody would stand over him or that sort of he's quite a sensitive little fella, actually.
I just see his heart racing 1,000 miles an hour when there's someone over the top of him, or an animal, like I was saying before. Whatever feels big to him, it's like I catch my breath, my heart races, and I'm just full of fear. So the adrenals are really sort of pumping, and that's where, you know, you probably don't have time just to manage ferrets every 5 minutes of the day, but whenever you can, just doing some energy healing on him, just to sort of soothe that energy and just pull out that anxiety a little bit. While he feels a little anxious about his history and this, where did she go? Where am I? Why am I here? Where is this other person? You know, all this kind of stuff. While there's all of that, there's another part of him that is very comfortable with you, trusts you implicitly. And so he's very comfortable with, you could do anything with him, really, and he would be quite comfortable.
Yeah, look, I do his nail trims. I've done Bowen therapy on him. He's a good little fella.
Ferris and Kelly, thank you so much for joining me today. I've really enjoyed chatting. I have to say, this is my first ferret that I've actually spoken to, so I'm a little bit excited about all of that. And I hopefully will get to have a chat with you again sometime. And everybody out there, if you're looking for a ferret, do your homework, make sure that you know what you're in for, and come back next week and join us and see who's in the chat box.
Make your day richer with The Richard Wilmore Show. Meet amazing musicians, talented actors, brilliant authors, hilarious comedians, and the most creative people in entertainment. Download the KP Media TV app to watch on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire.
That's the show for tonight, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. As always, it's an absolute pleasure having you here with me tonight. Don't forget, subscribe to the YouTube channel, send it around to your family and friends that love animals so they too can see what's going on here, and then follow the Facebook and Instagram pages as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Romy Bueller. I'll see you back here, same time, same place, next week.